I don't know how many of you have access on a day-to-day basis to speak to the CEO or to speak to your board members, to get their perspective on how to best implement programs, what their expectations are of all of us, and how do you work most effectively? How do you lead change in an organization? Two unbelievably impressive resumes. Please join me in welcoming Richard and Greg Brown. Thank you.
Mom would have loved that bio.
I told you it'd be fun. And I'll really start with that question of, nature versus nurture, because I'd like to know what went on in the Brown house.
There's 5 of us. Dick's the oldest, and I'm the baby. Our dad was a middle school math teacher and ran a part-time owner of a hardware store, and Mom stayed home. And I think that it was a home where the door was always open. We never locked our doors, right? And people would come.
Until we got robbed one night.
That's actually true, but for the most part, right? Everybody would come and go, and so a lot of conversation. Dad was a principled, tough, articulate disciplinarian, and Mom was the eternal optimist. So they were a good complement. But Dick is 13 and a half years older than I am. So my first memory of Dick really...
And I know I don't look it.
We'll come back to that. But I literally remember being at Ohio University in this gymnasium, whatever the field house is called, and my mom and dad said, "Psst, psst, psst, that's your brother," at the podium, and he was the valedictorian of Ohio University. That's the first memory I have of him.
But he expected us to do our jobs, to do what we said we would do. Our father, had a nose for nonsense. Let me tell you, he could smell it out. And when he heard a story that he didn't think was true, he could nail it. Our mother was gregarious. She was affable. She was sagacious. All the kids came to our house in the neighborhood, and we didn't have any money. I mean, they all had means far beyond ours, but there was a home environment where everybody just wanted to come. And I'll never forget my mother. Things would happen. And she, I said, this went wrong, Mom, and I don't think it's fair, and I didn't get to. She said, "Don't come crying to me. Don't come crying to me. Get up early tomorrow morning, get back out there and get it done." And she just had an incredible belief that her children could conquer anything. Our mother was one to preach to us, don't worry about failure. Others will worry about it for you. Get out there and do what you can do. Be the best at what you can be. Don't worry about failing. You'll surprise yourself. And I never did worry about failing.
There was an installation of you really can do anything you want to do. You should be proud of who you are, proud of where you're from, proud of this family, proud of the community. And Dick's right. Mom was not a self-doubting person. And she would say, "Gregory, put those shoulders back, shine those shoes. You can do this." She was our biggest fan. And it was just, I never really I didn't think about failing either. And I think but the other thing that was a key ingredient is you do what you love to do. Now, most people, I think, don't love their job. I think if you took a poll, most people would say, "I don't love my job." But I think that the thing I remember with Mom and Dad is your job is what you make it.
Is there an area of risk that keeps you up at night, or people in the board?
The thing that keeps me up from a risk standpoint are people, the pace and speed of the competitive landscape, and for sure, Elaine, supply chain. And boards do 3 things: strategy, risk, and succession planning. Those are the 3 things that boards primarily do. So what BROWZ does is fundamentally key from a business continuity, compliance, contractor management, really important. Inspect what you expect.
It's not an easy job with a big enterprise to change it. You know about change because that's what you do. I heard over and over again, especially in academia, People fear change. You know, people fear change. And I watched my people, and I worked with our leadership and executives, and I never found that to be true. Never. I never met people that feared change. What they feared was the unknown. And I will tell you, the one weapon you have, and if you use it well, it strikes at the heart of fear, is communication. Effective, frequent, filterless communication.
When change is happening, people ask two questions. Why are we doing this? And what does it mean to me? Companies do a pretty good job of why we're doing something, but what companies don't do as good a job of, and individual managers, is what does it mean to me?
Don't be incremental about it. If it isn't bold, it won't hold. You're going to put a lot of calories in on it, make it the biggest change you can make, and make responsibly. What you're changing are the beliefs of people. A culture of a company is the behavior of its people. And beliefs, their beliefs, run their behavior. I went to a company once, and I called a meeting Monday morning. I said, 7:30, I want the top 20 executives of the firm, international, in a boardroom with me. I said, well, I'll make it simple. I believe in action and urgency. Only action changes a business, and if you're not fast, you're falling behind. In this marketplace, in this day and age, you got to have speed. Now, who around this table doesn't agree with that? Guess what? They all agree. I said, look, we got to get going. We've been in here over an hour. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take a piece of paper when you leave here, and I want you to write down the 5 most important things I have to do to change this company as chairman and CEO, and put them in priority order. And then I want you to write down the 5 things that you have to do in your job to change. You get it back to me no later than the end of the week. This is Monday morning. What do you think happened? 18 of the 20 turned it in Friday afternoon. You know, the old saying, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear you talking.
Culture is what you do and how you do it. So does the company, does your group reflect the culture that you say you want to be? The biggest mistakes I've made is I've waited too long on people. I say there's 2 types of people, energy givers and energy takers. I mean, I'm a very simple person. I like clarity. Say, oh, Elaine's coming. Oh, good, Elaine. Good to see you, Elaine. Elaine, how you doing? How's business? Dick's coming. Oh, great, Dick. How are you? Jerry. Oh, Jerry. I'm going to go over here. You know who they are in your organization that are higher maintenance. I like people, you do the little quadrant, low maintenance, high impact. Do you have the right people that takes you to the next level? And my phrase is on people, when you don't know, you know. If I could give you one thing to remember, silence means agreement. There's a meeting with 4 or 5 people. We're rolling out this new product. It's going to be online December 1st. This is what we're pricing at it. People, oh yeah, that's good, good. Well, yep, pricing, yep. And then a week before you hear, well, I don't think it's priced right, or I wouldn't roll it out there. And when you allow that, you fracture an organization. Silence means agreement.
I don't believe leadership is genetic, despite Greg and I being up here.
I agree with that.
I don't.
I agree.
It can give you a head start, but you got to get there on your own. It's what you learn, it's what you do, it's how you believe. It's put your standards up here and don't bend. If there's one thing a CEO does, or somebody leading an organization, set the standards and pick the right people. You do that, you're halfway home or more.
It's not the cards you're dealt in life. I really believe this. It's how you play the hand. You can spend all those calories you want. You got 2 choices. Change it or change the way you think about it. So I'm interning at IBM, and I come home and I said, Dad, you won't believe this. And this executive from AT&T, I think it was my senior year of Rutgers, and he thought I was a permanent IBM employee. I was suit and tie, and I was installing, my job was to do customer instruction on Office products at IBM. Now, for those of you old enough, typewriters, MagCard, electronic typewriters, the Selectric, I would install it, teach the assistants how to use it, and he somehow said, you know, I want you to work at AT&T, and you can work when you graduate anywhere in the country. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. So I come home that night. I said, Dad, you won't believe this. I got a job offer to work anywhere in the country for AT&T. So I get out the Rand McNally map. This is obviously not pre-Google and everything else. And I'm looking at it, and I haven't been anywhere. A Jersey boy, and I said, well, Texas is supposed to be nice. I mean, San Francisco, that's on the water. And my father said, as only he would, what the hell's wrong with you?
That's him.
I said, what do you mean? He said, put the map away. I closed the map. Remember, we were very compliant to Dad. He said, who offered you this job? I said, his name is Joe Reed. He said, what do you know about him? I said, he has the central region. He's a vice president for AT&T and has the central region. He said, I see. And he was the gentleman that was kind enough to give you that offer? Yep. And you're here opening a map thinking about you, of what you'd like. You're not thinking about doing something for the man that was gracious enough to extend his hand. He said, you got your you-know-what in your you-know-what. So he said, why wouldn't you go work for that man? So the next morning, I called Joe Reed at the number he gave me, and I said, hi, Mr. Reed, it's Greg Brown. He said, Greg, no, call me in 4 months when you graduate and tell me where you want to go. I said, well, I have that answer now. I said, Mr. Reed, you have the central region, right? Yes, sir. I said, what's the worst performing area in your region? He said, well, interestingly enough, Greg, the worst performing area in my region is also the worst performing region in the country. This is 1981. It's Detroit, Michigan. Automobile recession, unemployment at 17%. It's terrible. I said, Mr. Reed, I want to come work for you in Detroit on June 28th. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, I am. And it was the best advice my father ever gave me. Don't think about you, Greg. Think about where you can make an impact. Be interested, not interesting.
Everybody knows what it takes to be a great leader. But the people that turn out to be the great leaders are the ones that do what they know they should do most often. The boss I admired the most had a phrase. He said, you know, the people that are the best leaders seem to more often than not always put judgment ahead of personal desires. It's true.
It's what you do when no one's looking. Leaders have an insatiable desire for self-improvement. And they're self-aware. The good ones are. They're self-aware. And they know what they do well, and they know what they don't do well. Leaders should speak less and speak last. I know what I know. Now, if I am in a meeting at Motorola and we have to make a decision, and I say, you know, thanks for coming today. We've looked at the data in the report. Good stuff. Elaine, I think we ought to go Northwest. I've just contaminated the whole meeting. What do you think? You know, now that you say that, Northwest looks like the right direction. And I just get corporate speak back. Speak less and speak last.
How would we best position ourselves for future success? If you were to talk to us as a mentor and give us that advice.
I think attitude determines altitude. I really think it's how you view things. I think the best leaders are realistic optimists. So they see a situation for what it is, good, bad, ugly, warts and all. But they immediately pivot to how do we make it better. And the best say, how can we make it better, and what can I do to make it better?
Now, I do believe in urgency. I think businesses that don't act with urgency fall behind in this world. I was too cautious in my early career, and as a CEO, I could never have changed businesses like I had to do if I was as perfect then as I was to start with.
Does my team believe in me as the leader? They may not like the decisions I make, but do they trust me and believe in me? Number one. Number two, do they believe that I put judgment over desire? Company first. Do you walk the talk? Are you authentic?
I always had a belief that leaders get the behavior they tolerate. And sometimes not tolerating things gives you a tough road to hoe.
So this started with Elaine reading these glowing resumes and credentials. Glowing. Chairman of this, chairman of that, smartest of this, smartest of whatever. But don't confuse credentials and accomplishments with having plenty of failures. It is not what happens to you. It's how you react to what happens to you. Sense of humor is important. We're so serious, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of serious things. But you gotta, I probably do it a little too much. And he's a bad influence on me because he's very funny. But you gotta have a sense of humor along the way.
I thank you both for taking the time and spending it with us, and I'll ask everyone to join me in thanking you.
Thanks, Elaine.